What is up, team? Welcome back to the Red Storm Rap Reaction Podcast. I'm Pat Kane. That's Cole Ladshaw. St. John's just took care of business, 99-77, a 22-point victory in, what do you know, a 21.5-point spread. Funny how that works out. Was not a crisp, clean first 25 to 30 minutes for St. John's, but they certainly proved they seemingly, like few St. John's teams I've seen before, have the ability to really put on the boosters and to fly by opponents. We've seen on a handful of occasions now. If we can get them to be a little more consistent, we might have one heck of a basketball team. Your thoughts, Cole?
Yeah, tale of two halves. Again, we've seen this multiple times with this team where they let a team hang around in the first half, but then in the second half go on a crazy run where they really show how they can put their foot on the throats of an opponent when they want to. After a really poor defensive effort, I thought, in the first half, letting Bryant really control the offensive glass, giving up 41 points to Bryant. Then they proceed to go on a 21-3 run when they're up by 1 point in the second half, taking that 1 point lead and stretching it to 18. And really, at that point, the game's over.
Yeah, old friends Rafael Pinzone showed off a pretty decent shooting touch in the first half, but overall, I thought we did a pretty good job, save a few good looks early. But once the game got settled in, I don't think he was who killed us. Matter of fact, Bryant really had a load of athleticism and size for an American East team. I wouldn't be surprised if they're a team, battling in the NCAA tournament against a 2 seed or a 3 seed and showing off that size and athleticism. Good test for St. John's. Obviously that would have been a devastating loss, so you got to get through that. But you got to see some stuff that you might not see. 5-out offense with some shooters, and apparently missing. I've always heard about this Earl Timberlake character for about 3 or 4 years, and I've never really seen him play. I didn't get to see him play tonight. I don't think I'll ever get a chance to see him play, and I don't think I'm too upset about it. But yeah, Pinzone's shot looked all right. Thoughts on Pinzone?
Thought he looked good. What did they say he's shooting on the season? 50% from three,
Those statistics, there were a bunch of different, off the dribble, off the catch, and there was like 5 or 6 of them. I think 5 of 6 of them were above 50%. The only one that was sub 40 was off the dribble. I didn't see what his actual percentage was just across the board, though.
Yeah, I mean, too bad we never got to see that player under Mike Anderson.
Well, yeah, or thank God we never got to see him under Mike Anderson, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. That's what led us to having one of the best college basketball coaches in the history of the game.
And it was. I was just thinking, I was trying to connect him to a St. John's player on the team, and there isn't any. It's not like if there was only one last year or 2 last year with obviously his high school teammate Traore, but now there's nothing connecting him aside from Van Macon. So, wonder how he felt being back there, but best of luck to him, and I'm glad we got to take care of business.
Yeah, again, like we were talking about with the tale of two halves, I had mentioned that Bryant really controlled the offensive glass. They were doing a lot of damage in the paint in the first half. And then that script completely flips in the second half to the point where I think we out-rebounded them by like 14 points in the game. I think doubled their offensive rebounds for the entire game. I think it was something like 9-18 or something to that extent. Really an amazing job again by Zuby. He played amazing against Kansas State, goes for another double-double today. You mentioned prior to us starting recording here, if you took away that first game when he went like for 1 point and 5 boards or whatever it was, his stats would look incredible besides that first game. And obviously the incredible performance we saw in the exhibition game against Rutgers, the steps, the player progression, as we all know, like Rick's known for, the year-to-year progression by Zuby is off the charts. And kudos to that young man. Kudos to Rick Pitino and the staff.
Kudos there all around. Also, kudos to our friends Frank and Dave, who had some, at the time I felt wildly bold expectations for Zuby, and his numbers are right under what he was 14 and 7.5 coming into today, with 22 and 10. So knocking on the door of 15 and 8, 15 and 9. So credit to Zuby, credit to those guys. I freaking love it. He was a monster again. And it's the offensive rebounding. It's also he's much more comfortable on those putbacks, hitting them on a much higher clip. not tallying up his own offensive rebounds with 3 or 4 in one possession as much anymore. And then the free throw stroke, aside for that 5-shot streak right then, he started 6 for 6. I think he ended 2 for 2 and was 1 for 5 in between there. So, I think he's solidly over 70% on the season. Confident there, confident overall, and just has become one heck of a player and is knocking on the door for all Big East teams.
Rick Pitino had a great quote in his post-game interview on Zuby. He said, "Working hard is a skill. Nobody on this team works like Zuby."
Yeah, I believe it. Seeing the progress, seeing how hard he works in the game, knowing how hard it is to get people to work hard like that, I think you can see it really coming out. And Zuby seems to love it. Have you ever seen Zuby not smiling out there as he's working harder than everybody else? Yeah, it's awesome. So happy to see that, and it's only making us more and more of a threat to be a legitimate Big East contender, which I think we can safely say at this point we are.
Yeah, Big East play. I mean, again, we keep talking about this tale of two halves. They've done this multiple times this season of letting a team hang around and playing poorly in the first half, turning on the second half. That has to get cleaned up as we go into Big East play. You're not going to be able to let Big East level teams hang around and not play to your highest level for a full 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was. I mean, let's talk. Rick Pitino played all 12 guys in the first half. I'm going to contradict one of the things I always hate is when I say I hate when fans are questioning substitution and rotation patterns and stuff like that. Of course, we all have our thoughts, and I was really, really surprised, and it honestly upset me when he put in Lefty for just one possession. Lefty gives the ball up, someone else turns it over. We foul him on the way back down the court. Lefty was back in transition defense. That was literally the 15 seconds he was on the court, and then he subbed him right out like he didn't even mean to put him in the first place. I thought that was rough. But heck, he knows more than I do. So again, I'll trust him there. I thought that was odd. And then the 12 guys in the first half, I don't think it's a coincidence that we have some slow starts. Guys are not getting into flow or getting in a rhythm. And I understand that may pay dividends later in the game, like we saw today. Our guys are fresh, so it's depending on which way you want to look at it. Who knows who's right? But I do think if you played less guys in the first half, we'd obviously, maybe not obviously, but I believe we'd be set up better to have a lead going into halftime.
Yeah, we've said it all off season with the roster construction all year so far. It's like I'm never going to second guess Rick Pitino, one of the greatest college coaches in the history of the game. Like you, at times I'm scratching my head when we're playing, especially against this lower level competition. He loves to get Deku in there when we're playing against these lower level competitions, and then he gets no real run against the higher level competition. Prey's usage today was a little interesting to me after I thought he played very well against Kansas State.
Yeah, I agree on both points. It's like Sadiko's either first or last. He either comes in as a spark plug when he doesn't love the energy, or doesn't put him in at all. And then once the game gets going, after putting him in for that original first guy off the bench, it's like he goes right back down to the end. And couldn't agree more about Prey. I think he's trying to not lose Vince's confidence is what I'm going with. But Prey has clearly outperformed Vince. He's clearly got the higher potential. We're still talking about a 7-2 guy, so maybe I shouldn't speak in absolutes like that. But I think in my mind, Prey has shown the greater skill now and the greater potential moving forward. And I think he can help you right now in a lot of different ways. I mean, tonight he had some crazy offensive rebound where he kind of just stole with one hand, kept it in bounds. Just smart. I think he's just smarter than a lot of the guys on the team, not just the big guys. And then Glover didn't get much burn in the first half. I don't know if he got in for the first half, maybe for a little bit of a stretch. But still thought, if you're going to play 12 guys, maybe, again, play the 10 that you think might help you most moving forward and give them the legitimate burn instead of trying to sprinkle in 30 seconds for a couple other guys that are just going to ruin the rhythm for everybody else. I guess we just second guessed Rick Pitino, so we're culpable too.
Yeah, we should just learn not to do that and just bite our tongues anytime that we would ever question Rick Pitino, who was one of the GOATs of college basketball coaching. I thought Simeon Wilcher played very well in stretches again today. Similarly, same type of thing against Kansas State. I know you and I talked when we were at the game. When that Kansas State game was super close, Sim had sort of a 3 or 4 possession run where he hit like 2 mid-range jumpers, made a great move to the rack for a basket. Same thing today, hit a bunch of big, huge jump shots. Again, we've talked about it all year, but his confidence in that jump shot and how smooth and pretty it looks. We were talking before about Zuby's progression year to year, Simeon's progression specifically around his jump shot. Like, you can tell how much work he put in with that jumper.
Yeah, he continued his effort, played really good today. Like you said, at the Kansas State game, shout out Cole for getting those tickets for us. Great spots, great place, great environment. He played great. And here's a couple different statements that are all true. All right. Simeon Wilcher has become a very good basketball player. Simeon Wilcher has been playing fantastic this past 2 games. And Simeon Wilcher's technical fouls are getting pretty old pretty quick. Mm-hmm. The talking, the yapping, I mean, I think it's once is one thing, to have it become a recurring thing when, you're part of the team here. You're not, it's not the Simeon Wilcher show. It's just seems like it's becoming too many occurrences in too few times. Just my thought there.
Agreed. Davon Smith, I thought, played really well on the bench. What do you think about Rick's usage of Davon post-suspension and how, in my opinion, he kind of seems to be separating Davon and Kadari from being on the court at the same time together? I think Kadari has looked, especially in the Kansas State game, like they're making more of an emphasis to sort of get Kadari the ball where he's most effective. You see him taking the ball a lot more to the rim, getting a head of steam coming off from the top of the key, going into the paint, getting the ball even at times. We had talked about it prior to the Kansas State game, but getting the ball at times like on the high post, the sort of the elbow extended area where he can operate out of there. But Davon coming off the bench today, 14 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 6 of 10 shooting, and 2 absolutely electric follow dunks. Rick Pitino said he doesn't think he's ever seen somebody jump so high with that one-handed putback that he had. Just incredible, that kid's athletic ability for someone that small.
Yeah, they say you can't be in the air for longer than a second, and I think he's going to defy that rule. I like Davon as the idea of being the 6th man. I think the way he can change the direction of a game is big in that role. I hope he can buy into that too, and I don't think that means he can't get legitimate starters minutes or top 2 or 3 minutes on the team. In fact, I hope he does. I do think there has been more of a concerted effort to kind of stagger those guys, but I also won't be surprised and would expect when we get down to the tougher games in our schedule, Kadari's playing 30 to 35 minutes, and it's not like Smith's going to be playing 10 to 15 in those situations. There's going to be quite a bit of overlap, no matter how much you try to stagger it when you've got 2 of the most talented kids, that you're talking about. I do think Davon played great, and he was really aggressive, I thought, early, looking for his shot, and I think that's important for him to not forget about him, as a scoring option.
You get down to nut cutting time, you're going to need your best players on the court at the same time.
Don't you know it? Don't we all know it? I guess before we show the stats here, we should point out, Cole and I went to the Kansas State game, and there was an absolutely electric atmosphere. After, a slow start, kind of like what we saw today, a back and forth affair, dug ourselves actually into a little bit of a hole. But that second half was an exhibition in terms of how you decimate a Big 12 team that's going on your home campus arena when you're honoring your Hall of Fame coach who had just passed away. And it was a great experience to be there. You could really feel how a crowd can change a basketball game. I am a firm believer that, if St. John's chose to play bigger games on campus, they would feel that home court advantage. But I also understand the importance of MSG and hopefully building it to a point where you have that home court advantage at MSG. Obviously, it's harder to get 15,000 fans than it is to get, 5,500 fans. And there was 5,500 fans there Saturday, and we felt that. Cole, your thoughts on the game we saw in person?
And shout out to those 5,500 plus fans that were there. That was an absolutely electric atmosphere. I guess what you would expect on a day where you're honoring Coach Lou Carnesecca. But I've been to countless games at Carnesecca Arena in my time, my undergrad, my graduate time at St. John's. I couldn't even count how many games I've been there. I have never heard that place that loud. We were sitting kind of in the old fogey section with the seat backs, and everybody was loud. Everybody was loud. It was incredible atmosphere. Shout out to all of our friends that we saw. We saw Dave and Frank, and gave John Fanta a fist bump, and saw our buddy Max outside after the game giving the business to Rico Bosco.
Yeah, we did. Shout out to Max. Shout out to those guys. Yeah.
And Mrs. Eye on the Storm podcast said that the Red Storm Rapid Reaction podcast is her favorite St. John's podcast. So I'll give a little dig to Dave and Frank.
We're gonna have to edit this in post-production. Wow. Okay. I mean, hey, I cannot confirm or deny whether or not I heard that myself. But yeah, that was awesome to be there. I don't have a lifetime of experiences at Carnesecca Arena. Matter of fact, that was only the second game I've been to. Now both of them with Cole, and we hold a 2-0 record there together in tandem. Both times against a purple non-conference foe. We got to get Washington in there. We got to get TCU on the phone. There's a few other possibilities. I think Northwestern would be a nice matchup.
Grand Canyon.
There's only so many, and we got to take advantage of what we can take advantage of. But we cannot forget, before we leave tonight, Cole was nice enough to put together some graphics so we could discuss more in detail some of the statistics tonight. We can't lose Cole's face, though. Hold on now. There he is. All right. A little bit of box score action. Player of the game. Could have maybe gone a few different ways, but I think the obvious, easy choice was Zuby Ejiofor. 22, 10, 1 assist. I'm not sure. Did he have a block tonight?
I don't know. I know Vince did at least had one massive reduction.
Yeah, he did have a big block there at the end, but still huge game out of Zuby. Aaron Scott had his perhaps best overall production night, 17 points, 10 rebounds. Still only 1 for 6 from three. It's almost 10, or it is 10 games into the season, and his percentage is low 30s right now. So maybe a little bit more of a concerning point of his game than we had hoped, when he came out firing early in the season and looked so comfortable out there. But 1 for 6, 2 for 6 is a fine line. And if you're 2 for 6 on a consistent basis, I guess we'll live with that. Thoughts on Aaron Scott's game?
I had written down the same exact thing. Yeah, 17 and 10 is a tremendous performance. If we can get those types of numbers out of Aaron Scott, you're going to win most games. And that's what we're going to need out of him in the Big East. 1 of 6 3-point shooting. You hope that's better. As a team shooting 30% from three, we need to be better from deep.
Yeah.
In order to stay with some of these Big East rivals. But, tremendous game from Aaron today.
Yeah, I catch the game catching up on YouTube TV. I was doing my best to fast forward through the commercials. I don't know, when you watched it live, there was a couple instances where it kind of went blank. I woke up basically with Wiltshire making a 3 in the corner. Did that happen in the live streaming?
Yeah, because CBS Sports Network sucks. They're the worst.
But YouTube TV doesn't suck. Shout out to YouTube TV. I missed the Dunlap 3. I don't know if I can blame that on CBS or if I just turned my head for a minute. I seen the box score Dunlap hit a 3. Did you see that one?
Yeah, that was on. Nice looking shot, kind of from the far corner.
Okay, and feet set. Looked like he took his time. Very good. Okay, good for Brady. Yeah,
Didn't
I missed that one.
So good for him still having confidence. I know a lot was written kind of about his woes, and he had been asked about it. And
face mask.
He's gonna keep shooting. Yeah, face mask Brady might be like face mask Kobe.
Or Rip Hamilton. Maybe he'll be a mainstay. And then Jaden Glover, speaking of confidence, not lacking for it at all. Looked good on his 3-point make late in the game. He's a strong physical athlete. Got to learn some things, but I think the potential for him to be a Big East, big-time player is certainly there. I mean, I don't know how much of their game is too reminiscent, but there's just something about him and AJ Storr that kind of remind me of each other in terms of you give them 10 minutes on the court, they're going to find a way to score close to 10 points, one way or the other. Both physical wings. I think both have so much potential to grow as all-around players, but can really score early in their career at a high level.
Yeah, and RJ Lewis with another 17-point night. I think he was 7 for 16 shooting, 1 of 4 from 3. Had a couple of misses at the rim. I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, and I know I've gotten it from some people in our comments section, but if that kid makes a pass on a fast break, it'll be the first time I've ever seen it. Like, he puts his head down, he's getting to the basket. Sometimes it works out for us. He gets fouled. Sometimes he goes to the free throw line. Sometimes he makes a spectacular layup. But I mean, I know some of those advanced analytics always say that a 3-point attempt is better than a 2-point attempt. So when Brady or somebody or Aaron Scott's standing there wide open at the 3-point line, it's a little frustrating for me when he puts his head down and barrels his way into trying to get to the rim and then throws one off the front of the rim and the defense grabs it and starts going the other way. I get a little testy standing 2 feet in front of my television and yelling at the screen. But
tell us how you really feel.
But I mean, again, I can complain about that when he's dropping 17 points and new shin splint. RJ is, again, another player that has taken an insane step forward in his progression in 1 year, and kudos to him for the work that he's put in the offseason.
Yeah, 17-4 is like, seems like the baseline for him now. And he's going to find his way to get those points because he does find his way to take his shots. And I'm thinking of that one example today where he stole the ball in the paint and Aaron Scott was out in front and he ended up getting a 2-point layup. What you want in a fast break is a layup at the rim. So we got it. But he could have easily passed it up ahead to Scott or used a 2-man game, which I thought was going to be the play. But instead he flew by who I think it was Pinzone, who had kind of given up there in the second half and finished. But yeah, there are some times when RJ still has the head down look, but it's, in my opinion, becoming fewer and fewer, which is, steps in the right direction. And he does show talent as a passer. There was one beautiful pass tonight he had to Vince, who couldn't capitalize on the finish late, but a beautiful bounce pass, thread to the needle, top of the key down there. And we saw a few against Kansas State as well, some simple, just easy next guy passes. And you add those all together, and with the talent he has as a scorer and an athlete and as a defender, he's got so much potential. Hopefully you can see him fulfill it at St. John's with one more season.
You brought up something. I know we're kind of talking about the St. John's box score, but what did you make of Pinzone kind of not really playing there much in the second half? Obviously, he's been filling it up for Bryant. Rick Pitino, when he first came in, sort of made some executive decisions and pushed some guys out the door, claiming that there were some character issues and stuff. I think you just said it perfectly, where it seemed like Pinzone really kind of gave up there in the second half, especially during that run. And it seemed like the coach then, Phil Martelli Jr., sort of glued him to the bench, and that was the end of the game for him.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have my eyes glued on Pinzone in the second half, but I didn't notice him doing anything particularly well on the defensive end. I did notice early in the first half he did get beat a few times. But offensively, he seemed like a huge piece of their team. They had it going from a few other guys tonight. That Evans guy was having the game of his life and was talking a whole bunch of crap and was having fun. Good for him, but he lost by 22. Pinzone, I'm not surprised he's not a Pitino guy. More of a scorer than anything else, but you could score 20 points a game at the Division I level. He's probably going to be making a lot of money doing it for the foreseeable future. So can't say it's a bad move by him.
No. And then I see you just brought up here the team stats. Just a few things I wanted to call out. I had mentioned when we were talking about sort of the bad first half by St. John's, Bryant was really controlling the offensive glass there in the first half. They were getting a lot of their points in the paint, getting a lot of offensive rebounds. We then completely flipped that script in the second half. 21 offensive boards for us, hold them to only 10 for the game. That's a crazy turnaround. Yeah. 3-point shooting has to improve for us going into Big East play. We have had highs where we've shot the ball really, really well from deep in games, but there's also been some bad lows. We're not going to be able to sustain the type of winning that we need to if we're not shooting the ball well from deep. Sharing the sugar too, like great to see like so many assists and limiting the assists from Bryant. Anything else jump out to you?
No, the 18 assists is good. I think that's coming off 17 assists against Kansas State, but those 13 turnovers are a little bit too high. A lot of that's just that sloppiness, loose hands in the first halves. We have somewhat of a bad habit with. But overall, I think we got better today. I think we saw some things that are important. Um, hopefully we'll see Big East play kind of refine our rotation and cut it down, just a little bit. DePaul, a week or not quite a week. Next Tuesday opens up Big East play. They're 0-1 after a tough. Or no, wait a second. They lost. Yes, they lost. Right? Yeah, they lost to Providence. Yep, I'm thinking of something else. Yeah, battled, lost a tough one at home against Providence in overtime. We'll have to make sure we're ready for DePaul. Don't want them to sneak up on us. Obviously, shouldn't be able to sneak up on a team on the opening night of conference play, but we've seen St. John's not show up when we need them to before. So hopefully we can turn that page and get going in the right direction against DePaul next Tuesday.
Yeah, obviously you want to take it one game at a time, but DePaul, if you can get that win, then you go into the dunk and play in Providence in their place. Now, there's been some talk back and forth about the student schedule. It sounds like kids might be at the end of finals at that point, so it might not be the real true home environment that Providence is known for. Can you beat DePaul? Can you beat Providence? Then you have that last out of conference game against Delaware. You should handle that. Then you get Creighton without Pop Isaacs. There's a chance you go 3-1 there. That Creighton game's on the road. You go 4-0 with 2 big wins on the road against Providence and Creighton. That could be a tremendous.
Are you guys hearing this much right now? Are you guys hearing this?
Look at this positive attitude. Who is this guy?
Yeah. He's talking about 4-0 start. Let's get through DePaul first. Can we, Cole? This guy's going to be putting up graphics for Big East champions before we know it. I'm going to have to, rein him in a little bit. No, schedule is favorable with some breaks we've had, that's for sure.
Yeah, but for all the complaints I've had about how we've done so far in the out of conference and not being able to finish Baylor, and then what's happened with the rest of the Big East as far as them losing out of conference games and how that's going to affect our metrics. If you rush out to, a 3-1 start over these next couple of games here, a 4-0 start over, handling that last out of conference game against Delaware, and a 3-0 start in Big East. You're off to the races at that point. That Creighton win would be a huge win, obviously, after they beat Kansas. Tough break for them losing Pop after beating the number 1 team in the nation.
Thank God they did. Thank God they got that win. Not thank God he got hurt. The Big East had to prove some stuff before conference play started, and we had some big wins by Providence, by UConn, by Creighton. St. John's helped, themselves too, beating Kansas State. That without those wins before we hit the conference play, eventually those teams would have knocked off some teams. Villanova beat Cincinnati. So proving themselves before they prove it against us is definitely a good thing, and it will make our wins hopefully look better against them as well. Cole, that's about it. Tom, apologies for the late delivery. Thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you for listening. I apologize for the, not getting the Kansas State game in. I know schedules get tough. Cole, Sean will be here throughout the season. I'm going to be here as well as quick as I can give you these recaps. For Kyle Cuff, this has been Pat Kane. That's Cole Atshaw, Red Storm Rapid Reaction Podcast. Peace.